Okay, in our last video, we went through and calculated mean and mode and median and standard deviation of the population and the sample and the multiple modes by hand. I want to show you using descriptive statistics at this point. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my column A and I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go over here. I want to add a new worksheet to work on. I would suggest every time you start a new part, don't keep working on the same worksheet. Just add a new one. So this makes Excel lets you have a workbook that can have multiple sheets. You can double click on this and rename it. And we'll call it descriptive because that's what we're going to do. So that way you can kind of look at your sheet names and tell what's going on. And I'm going to paste that data in that I copied from the previous sheet. And now I have sheet 3, which is where I did those calculations originally. And I have the new sheet, which has exactly the same data. So there's all 62 measurements. All right, I had you guys previously go through and choose File and Options, and then go in and look at Add-ins, and then go down here to the bottom where it says Excel Add-ins and click on Go and add the Analysis Tool Pack. And when you did that, on your data page or on your data ribbon, so where you usually see this ribbon, the formatting one, you also have an insert ribbon and a layout ribbon and a formula ribbon, but the one we're interested in is data, and you'll see either data analysis or this little icon. Okay, so what I want to do is click on data analysis at this point, and it gives you this giant list of statistical function things that it has built in. And the only one we're really interested in, or there's actually two we will use, and I'm only going to talk about one in this video. So we'll talk about descriptive statistics and the histogram. Okay, so I'm really interested in this one. Okay, so descriptive stats. So I choose that one and click OK. Now it comes up with this little menu, and it looks like this. This is what we're going to choose every time. I don't know what this button is called. I'm going to call it a waffle button because it looks a little like a waffle to me. Maybe I'm just hungry. All right, click on the waffle button and go over here and choose your data set, including the title. Okay, so mine is fake news. I hold down Control and Shift and down arrow, and that selects the heading and all 62 data points. And then I click on this little box again, and I can see that it put in that range of cells. The dollar signs mean it's an absolute reference, so if you move this around, it's always going to be pointing at those cells. And it's grouped by columns, and I need to think about, did I put a label on it? And if I did, I need to click on this. So that way it will pull in the label fake news as part of my what it reports. Okay, next thing we have to do is choose the output range. When this produces output, it overwrites anything that that's there. So be careful where you put this. I'm going to click on the waffle button one more time for output range. And I'm scrolling to the top of my worksheet, and I'm going to choose something kind of away from my data, like usually E like 2 or something like that. And so I puts in a reference of where it's going to put that data. Think of that as kind of like the top left corner. Click on this little drop down. And then we need to tell it what to report. The only one we are really interested in out of all of this list is summary statistics. Okay, so let's review what we just selected in this menu. We used this waffle button to select our data range, including the title. We left it grouped by columns, so that's because it's in a column and we will normally work that way. And then we told it had a label in the first row. This one is called fake news. I selected an output range. I selected E2, which is this cell right here. And then I selected summary statistics. Those are the selections you need to make when you do this. Okay, so we click OK, and it spits out some numbers. Notice how you can't read these right here. If you point at the space between column E and column F, you see this cursor. It's an up and down with a left and right arrow. If you double click right there, it will automatically fit everything in those two cells. Okay, so let's look at what it gave us. It calculated the mean, and we know from our previous video that that is the mean. Actually, let's go through and highlight everything that's meaningful to us. So we want to know about the mean. We want to know about these three, the median, the mode, and the standard deviation. And the rest of this, oh, hey, we want to know about range, max, and min. Those are useful. And the count. The rest of that we're not really interested in. So we see that we have 62 data points, that the maximum is 504, the minimum is 422, the range is 81, that our median is 449.2, mode is 461, and standard deviation is 15.25. Let's look at these two numbers that have problems. We have issues with both of these, so I'm going to make them red and make them a little bigger. And now let's go talk about why these are problems. In the previous video, we set these calculations up manually, and let's go back and look at what we did on that. So here's our manually entered. I'm going to call this manual. And look at the standard deviations first. The population standard deviation is 15.13. The standard deviation of the sample is 15.254. So if we look at this standard deviation, even though it only says standard deviation, is a sample. So if you needed to calculate the population deviation, standard deviation, you need to enter that manually, because what this does is it assumes that this is a sample data set. Another problem we have is this number, okay, 461, because in our previous investigation, we know that this data set has 4 modes. So you need to recognize that this is a single, and that it is also considering it a sample. So single mode, and sample standard deviation. And that may have some bearing on what I ask you to do. So pay real close attention if you use these, that these are based on this set being a sample, not the population. But other than that, it gives you some really useful information right away. So that may be helpful in the future. So that is using the data analysis toolpack for descriptive statistics.